Fourth year as a senior coach for John Longmire, the agony and the ecstasy. And he did open up a 30-point margin. Adelaide got it back to 2 points.
Explain to me about the ecstasy again, Dwayne. I'm not seeing a lot of that. I'm seeing the other side of it.
He is a premiership coach, of course, so he has had a little bit of ecstasy in his time. Premiership as a player as well, John Longmire. And right now, it's advantage Sydney. 25 points the margin. Both these teams searching for their first victory of 2014. And this last quarter could have huge consequences.
I think unfortunately for the Adelaide Crows, they really gave away that big head start in the first term. They've had 19 scoring shots apiece. It's just that Sydney have been super efficient in front of goals, and that's been the big difference. They've got to try and get a roll on here early. They started to do that in the third term, but then Sydney, the stoppage kings, went and kicked a few goals from stoppages, and that killed them.
That was as good as I've seen them at the stoppages in that quarter. They just nailed them with a couple of rippers. But Adelaide has just got to take their opportunities if they're going to win the game. They haven't been able to do it. They've kicked 9 goals, 10. Sydney have kicked 14 goals, 5, and some of those from outside 50. So it's a pretty basic game at the end of the day in terms of making the most of your opportunities going forward. Both these sides have been pretty poor in the last quarters in the first 2 games. We'll find out today who's going to find something, who's going to dig deep and find some run in the legs in the heat.
Cameron Mooney's watching it from ground level. Welcome back, Cam.
Yeah, thanks, Dwayne. Looking at the last quarters over the last couple of weeks, Adelaide, and they've only scored 4 goals, 3-27. To the opposition, 13 goals, 6. So that's a huge differential. You look at the score sources just today, there's some stoppages, down a goal, turnovers again. We've spoken about turnovers all week, down 3 goals, kick-ins 1 goal. But a big effort here from Adelaide is needed, guys. Just quickly, a sub's been made for Sydney. Rowan is on, and Mitchell has been given the red vest.
Thanks, Cam. Final term underway. Riley with the early clearance to half forward. Shaw and Crouch went head to head. Here is the sub, Rowan, to give them legs and some speed to the other speeds to Jetta. He wants to get and go. Tried to shimmy, the shake and bake, didn't quite work. Franklin rolls it to his advantage inside 50, gets a Shepherd. And just dragged down by Dangerfield. Just a little chase and nudge.
A great chase, and fittingly Talia goes over there. He gets up a bit proppy, Dangerfield. He's closing speed, and we know he's rolled the ankle, so he's a little bit proppy, but that's brilliant.
Well, that may well have kept him in the game.
Yep.
Riley. Jacobs and Pike. Jacobs front spot. Plays on. Crouch. No free. Could have been. Rick was dragged down, didn't have it. Douglas
stays in.
Yeah, ball rolled kindly. Footy gods knew that would deserve the free. Sloan, half forward, still alive. Smith, Adelaide speedster. He misses. And it's an ugly scoreboard for the inaccurate Adelaide right now.
Yep.
Well, we just spoke about it, didn't we? Taking the most of your opportunities. They did all the hard work, and Smith just couldn't quite nail it.
It wasn't an easy one. He was under pressure, but sometimes those half opportunities are the difference at the end of the day.
9-11 to 14-6. McGlynn caught from behind, ducked out of it, lucky.
Gee, Betts had him cold and just ran straight over the top. He went too high.
Tall.
Jetta, a barrel to Franklin, couldn't quite find it. Hanbury, Franklin back again. Setting it all up to Kennedy. He wants it back again on the left. Pumps it to the square.
Big contest.
McVeigh, Douglas, McVeigh! Phenomenal!
Yeah, that's disappointing, isn't it? I mean, the game's in the balance. Richie Douglas, he's a quality player. So they've got to find a way to kill that ball.
Well, it took a pretty special mark, didn't it, though, Jace? A one-handed grab.
And this is for the biggest lead of the game. For a 31-point margin. And the Adelaide Crows are at breaking strain right now.
And how often does it happen, boys? You have a chance to nail a goal at one end of the ground, you don't nail it, it goes straight down the other end, and the reverse happens, and that hurts. That's an 11-point turnaround, isn't it?
Franklin involved again in the build-up, and here's the one-on-one.
Brilliant use of the body by McVeigh, wasn't it? Just held his own.
Kept his eyes on the ball all the way through.
Let's have another look. Just use his body perfectly. Douglas did well not to give away the free kick. And great skill.
Turns 29 on Monday. Coming off a fantastic season, All-Australian the first time for his career. Last year, second best and fairest. And that was monumental, that mark and goal.
Can you play your best footy about 28, Jace?
The other thing to remember here too, I mean, they've got to make a statement here, Adelaide, regardless of the result. They got run over late last week and it blew out to a big margin. They wouldn't want the same thing to happen again today.
O'Keefe to Shaw, showing some poise now, Sydney.
Franklin in space, he's one out against Talia.
Kennedy sees it, puts it to his advantage. Franklin got a fingernail on it. Talia wants to run it through. Indecision. Finally a behind from McKay.
Well, Sydney going to go for the kill here, aren't they, really? They're just got to really put the Crows under the pump. And Adelaide are going to stand up, and not only stand up, they've got to respond. Season's on the line here for Adelaide. They're going to find something.
Riley to himself. Jacobs. Now Chesky, who's the third man in, gets it back.
Just doesn't look to be a lot of run left in the Adelaide legs, Root.
Pike to McVeigh, the shrug. Franklin again. Hartigan gets back. Talia, good use.
They're going to take them on. They're going to try and get that spark, get some run. Otherwise, they're just going to play into Sydney's hands.
Brown.
Well done by Josh Jenkins not to absolutely barrel his teammate there as well. That could have easily have been good night nurse for Luke Brown.
McKay. Hartigan's wide. He goes short. Riley.
Good defence by Sydney. No free men for Adelaide.
Each passing minute. Sydney closer to getting there. 2014 back on track. Jacobs.
Yeah, good option.
Yench can go. LRT hunts him down.
Good
he
kick.
puts it in front. Good run on ball for Douglas. It sits. He's away from 40. No!
Well, they don't deserve to win if they're not going to kick the goals. Great run by Matty Yench through half back. He took the game on. He took a bounce and took it on. And a great kick, and just Dougie just couldn't finish it.
It's never easy. I know it looks a really bad miss, and it is, but it's never easy when you're running as quick as you possibly can.
Oh, no, it's not an easy kick.
And that's what Douglas had to do then.
It was a harder kick than Brodie Smith, but AFL's a tough game.
Yep.
If you want to come from 30 points down,
You got to kick him,
you
exactly
got to
right.
kick him.
6 minutes gone. Gary Rowan wide. I won't mind the ball in Sydney.
So Tom Mitchell, the one that was subbed out for Gary Rowan.
Adelaide had to jump with their sub early. Scott Thompson injured in the opening half. Sloane. Odds yeah, there with Grundy. Gets a kick. Keeps it alive. Jenkins with Richards, who wraps him up. Takes him to the line.
Easy up. He's got a handball. Get Taylor straight away.
Adelaide should be just still having a crack, still thinking that Sydney were the ones. They haven't had great last quarters either at this stage, so they're not out of it. They definitely need to get the next goal.
Jacobs tried to flick a handball through. Jack to Malcheski. They've got a sniff here of some blood, Sydney. Haven't quite got the 4 points yet. Talia to Rutten.
Gee, he's looked up and there was no one there.
One more goal would do it for Sydney, Dwayne, wouldn't it?
Sloane.
Very stagnant ahead for Rory Sloane.
Here's a go.
Grigg stands under it. Rampy right with him. Big fist. Laidler back into the lineup this week. Crumbs it to Kennedy. O'Keefe. Only one-on-ones ahead. In fact, a 1-on-2. Cunningham the one. And Brown and Hartigan see it to the line. But not just a goal would seal it for Sydney. If they can get another 7 or 8 minutes off this clock, they'd just about be home as well.
Grigg's still off for Adelaide. Oh, sorry, not Grigg. Kerridge is still off for Adelaide. So they're one man down at this stage with that poke in the eye.
Right, rolls it towards half forward. Richards 8 minutes now gone.
Hold the meter,
Sydney Swans opened the season with a horror loss to GWS, a major surprise. Lost to Collingwood round 2 at ANZ Stadium last week. Their season could be back on track. Franklin's been back in form this afternoon. That could be a massive sign for them as well.
So a loose behind the play for both sides at the moment too. Adelaide have got Hardigan back loose and can't quite pick up it. Laidler, is it?
Sydney should be confident here. Not just the scoreline now, but the last time these two teams met, it was here in Adelaide, and Sydney hammered Adelaide by 77 points. Rampy left it behind. Smith, high to the pocket. Grundy read it well. Holds his ground. Shaw. He's still taking it on.
Yeah, good run.
Jetta, a paddock ahead. No one comes at him initially. Has the clever bounce. Waits. Franklin in the space. Jetta wanted it back. Working the line. Held after the handball. Smith. He keeps it alive. Hardigan. Brown. Jenkins is in a 1-on-2. Flicks it down. Rampy, one of the two. Betts still can't get into it. Oh, he might get into it now. Jenkins. Douglas. Podsiadly. Missed him. Pods goes hard. Flicks it up to Danger. He can't nail it. Jenkins to Sloan.
Well done,
dragged
Sydney.
down by Rowan. Podsiadly. Greek. Fighting hard, Adelaide. Giving it every last crack. Smith. O'Keefe. Punch clear by Pike. This is it. The game right now. Adelaide get a goal. They're back in it. Petrenko. They fought hard for this. Long. Greg. Pocket. Feeds back. Got it.
Oh, no wonder they're tired.
Gee, that was hard fought to get that.
It was hard in the commentary box. Jeez, we're sweating up here.
He's kicked a couple already, Mitch Greg. He is a beautiful left foot kick, but they've got to get their momentum going very quickly right now. Just got to start stringing some goals together to be any hope of getting back into this.
Well, he's kicked a couple. He's a left footer. He's in the right spot.
That's it.
Gee, they need this. What a last couple of minutes that was.
Halfway through this final term. Crowd hasn't had much to cheer about for a while and still not here. That could be catastrophic. No one home on the wing. Wright gets back so they can reload.
It's going to take him on.
Still enough time. 30 points to margin.
They got a couple of loose backs, Sydney, so
Switch here.
bombing away doesn't help.
Oh, he shanked it.
And it might work. There's the
work.
chaos ball. McKay to Dangerfield. If anyone can, he can. He gave it off instead. Laird flicks it wide. Jacobs, not your snapping goal scorer from the pocket. Puts it up. Eddie. Big fist. And the ball in. Will suit Adelaide. Better than a behind.
Yeah, it won't bother Sydney if the game slows down now. Clock's on their side. They're happy to have stoppages, happy to have slow passages of play.
Ball out. Again, another stoppage.
Well, Jace, at the moment they've got Jenkins has just come back onto the ruck, but Podsy's been on the bench, so they really haven't had too many tools down there to take these marks. So they're making it hard for themselves, not having those big tall marking options inside 50.
Moons, anything with Kerridge? We're not seeing him back out in the field.
Still haven't seen him at all, Roo, so maybe it was hell of a lot more than we thought.
Riley flicks the handball out, still fighting hard. Laird couldn't quite get his arms free. Dispossessed. Shaw, Jack, Rowan. He could go all the way home. He's got the speed. He's got the poise. It's long. It's strong. They could be home. And they're home away from home.
Well, that's the difference, Jace, isn't it?
They had some run left in the legs. They had numbers. The pressure they've put on. We saw that passage before where Adelaide actually worked the ball forward, but just have a look at the persistence in pressure and the numbers that Sydney get here. And then there's 3, 4, 5 of them ready to take the ball away, and tired legs chasing. Good finish from Gary Rowan.
5 inside 50s for 2-goal-2.
Well, they smashed Adelaide by 77 here in Adelaide last year, and right now Swans are putting their foot down.
Yeah, they've got to find a way, Adelaide, to hang tough, because they did get blown away in the last quarter. It's good for Sydney. I think most people expect them to find a bit of form today. It's a slow couple of weeks for them.
Crouch, for his first goal of his career, sits on a 10, stays in the field of play.
It's missed by a long way.
Smith. Yeah. Grundy. Out on the full.
So's that.
Well, the majority of the crowd have stayed. 50-odd thousand here for the Adelaide Crows' first home game of 2014.
Jenkins very proper. He can barely run. He's done something to his left ankle or left leg, perhaps. He's limping decidedly.
Just puts it in the hole. Podsiadly, hand on it, through some fingernails. And behind.
Come back to the dot next, dot. 2 metres, 2 metres.
They've stayed, Dwayne, because up until that last goal, they were probably a genuine chance.
Hold, Eddie, Eddie, hold. Thank you.
Just haven't been able to put it on the scoreboard.
Yours.
He needs to come off, Jenkins. He can barely run. He's limping. I don't know if it's cramp or if he's done something, but he just can't get across the turf.
Well, Kerridge is off. They're really down on manpower. Thompson's injured. Looked like a hamstring. Kerridge poked in the eye.
Bring it on. Play on.
So the rotations are really going to really make him drop off late in this last quarter.
To the wing. This game being played in deathly silence now. And it is like the season has died for Adelaide in front of their home base.
I think the 19th man's died.
Absolutely. And Franklin, he has come alive.
They could punish him here with no rotation, Sydney, if they want to.
He's pumped that. Laidler, goal square, got it!
I tell you what, he's been involved in a lot of their scores, Lance Franklin. He's kicked the 3 goals himself, but it's his kicks inside 50 that have led to at least 3 or 4 more goals. And it'd be a really encouraging sign of his form, Sydney Swans. I mean, it's been a better performance by Sydney, better conditions, and certainly it's allowed Buddy to come into his own.
For his first goal as a Swan. 2 games for the Cats, 24 for Carlton. Was hardly played last year by Mick Malthouse. In his second game as a Swan, kicks his first goal in that jumper, and the Sydney Swans will have their first victory of 2014.
Well, here's Buddy. We've seen him all day. He's been good. He's been dangerous. He's had some space. And a beautiful kick to a one-on-one contest at the top of the square where Laidler just got there in front of Douglas. But this has got the potential to get ugly for Adelaide. It's 41 points now. That's ugly enough, but there's 8 minutes to go. They've got no rotations left in terms of Kerridge being injured. Jenkins is out there injured. And could be another big loss.
Well, that's not a bad looking game, is it? 9 score involvements, 3 goals to himself, 18 possessions. Been very good, Buddy Franklin, today.
Suddenly, the investment looking a little more worthwhile. Sydney Swans, their season back on track.
Yeah, well, it was 54 points last week the Crows got run over by, and as you said, Roo, now 41. Still plenty of time on the clock. This is looking ugly again.
Here's Franklin again.
Well, I don't know how Talia ended up 20 metres away unless there was a good block involved, but that hasn't worked well at all.
We spoke about the last quarters, guys, the last 2 weeks. Yeah, they've just really struggled. And Rui, I heard you talk a couple of times over the last couple of weeks about the amount of work that the Crows did over the summer, you know, doing 40, 45, 50k weeks, and they just look to be really struggling in these last quarters.
Well, you can run, but it's how you run and when you run. And
There it is.
It's hooking them both ways. Beautiful kick.
Franklin's got 3.
Well, it's turning into a big day for Buddy Franklin. His 4th goal there, 1 in every quarter. And we just saw he's been involved in a number of score involvements. So he's really starting to turn it on. Just a scrimmage there. You could see it was Lewis Roberts-Thompson that put body on Daniel Talia. That's what opened it up for Buddy Franklin. That's terrific work, unselfish work from Roberts-Thompson. He virtually took himself out of the play just to give Buddy some space.
Correction, 4 goals for Lance Franklin. 115 to 68. Sydney Swans back at the SCG for the first time next week. First time this season. North Melbourne, Fremantle, their next 2 games. And their season suddenly alive again. McGlynn to Hanbury, who's found some form. Parker, little push off. Hanbury again. Franklin still inside 50. Wanting to pounce on another. Adelaide are out of petrol tickets here. Franklin comes back hard to McGlynn. Flicks it out. Smith. Malcheski. Long to the square. And they are putting their foot down. Cunningham. Dacked. From the top of the square. He kicked 2 goals in the opening term to set up the lead for the Sydney Swans. They're going to extend it in the shadows of full time here.
Well, this will be 10 out of the last 11 goals if he kicks this, which I'm sure he will. And that's a fantastic effort by Sydney, but an ugly tale for Adelaide.
About the ticking to time on final term. The Swans players know they're home.
Well, they've kicked 2 in 2 minutes here, Sydney. There's still 6 minutes to go, and the margin is 53 points. So Sydney will just go in for the kill, and Adelaide are going to stand up for themselves here. Otherwise, they're going to be embarrassed in front of their home crowd, who are walking out of the gates, walking out of the stands right now. This is not good for Adelaide.
Interesting month, a very winnable month coming up for Adelaide.
Straight back. Here we go.
Well, that looks a better story, at least Adelaide's next 4.
It's very winnable, but look, we spoke to Brenton Sanderson prior to the game. He did say he's picked a different side this week. He made a few changes. He wanted harder, tougher players that would tackle and chase and do those sort of things, not your outside run. But again, it hasn't worked, Roo, has it?
Well, that was a good thing to say, but reality was he had his tough players out on the deck anyway. He's still got a lot of players out there could have been playing better, and they're just not playing good enough football.
Sydney Swans players are enjoying this.
Absolutely, that's the story.
They could have rushed to behind, taken it out, but they're still taking it on. They can smell a little bit more blood.
It's concerning the lack of run in 4th quarters too.
John Longmire had a tough day at the office, but he should be a very pleased man. They've got a few to come back. Kurt Tippett, of course. Something else that'll hurt Adelaide fans when he comes back. Sam Reid, Adam Goods, late in the year we expect.
Hold there, thank you.
Rampy.
Play on. Play on. Line.
Rowan. He's come on and given them something this up. Lewis Roberts-Thompson back into the lineup this week for his 2nd game of the season.
Yeah, they're just starting to get going, the Swannies, aren't they? Plenty to look forward to with Tippett and Goods and Reid to come back.
There's always going to be a disastrous afternoon for the loser, but for the Sydney Swans, this is massive.
Vision. Good vision.
Jetta opens it up. McVeigh, they are messing with Adelaide big time here. They're playing with them. Hanbury from a stand start. This is embarrassing, but it's a delight to watch for Swans fans.
When you talk about run, Roo, they strolled into the attacking 50 there with numbers. More Sydney attackers than there were Adelaide defenders, and it was a matter of who wants to kick it. Look at all the tired Adelaide players behind. He's fallen over, given it out, then he's only jogged, got the spare player, 3 on 2. Gee, the work rate's really fallen off for the Crows.
Absolutely. Just an all too familiar tale. We said it before half time. It was shaping up to be a mirror of rounds 1 and 2. Some serious questions are going to be asked at Adelaide this week. Hanbury worked his way into the game. Not his best game, but serviceable. A couple of goals, 17 touches. But look at the turnovers, 12-5 to 5-10. And it's a familiar tale for Adelaide.
Yeah, it's not going to be fun for the Adelaide Crows this week, the scrutiny that they face now.
Petrenko, and that tells the tale.
And it's even worse given how their crosstown rivals are going, Roo.
Oh, look, they've never had a bigger competitor in town than Port Adelaide at the moment, and that is eating away at them, but full credit to them. But Adelaide have to just look at their own backyard at the moment. They have to question their fitness. They keep saying they're fit enough, they keep saying they've worked hard, but you can't keep getting run over from halfway through the third quarter to the end of the game if you're fit enough. It's as simple as that.
Such a contrast to last week, a game played at a high decibel level, and yet this one has been played to silence for the majority of it. 50,000 people here, and you can hear a pin drop.
Well, they're stunned, aren't they?
And it's not just today, it's their last couple of weeks parlayed into this disaster for the Sydney Swans, heading back to the SCG for the next couple of games. This is a massive momentum changer for them.
There's nobody in the attacking 50 then. Jenkins is just getting back now, but only Swans in the attacking 50 when they looked up.
Crouch.
He's one out if they kick it long, and they've got to go long to him.
Brown. Dangerfield even runs lethargically. Douglas caught a little high.
He's still one out in the goal square if they want to kick it to him.
On the lead now, and got it. No, put it to the deck. Grundy to Smith to Jetta to Cunningham.
Come on, guys. Then he come back out. Rules.
Drives it long. Big fly, front of the spot. Pike knocked it down to Jack, and they are away. McLean to the runner. Jack. Lewis Roberts-Thompson running for him. He doesn't go the long bomb to Hanbury. He goes to Lewis Roberts-Thompson. A rolling ball. McVeigh, LRT. They are playing with them.
Look at Adelaide defenders out. Look at the Adelaide defenders out on the ground. Adelaide players got hands on their hips everywhere at the moment. They are absolutely cooked. And Sydney are just taking full advantage of it.
See, he had it there, and it was just stripped out of him by Rampy, I think it was. And look at the quick transition. Numbers running for Sydney, and a lot of strugglers for Adelaide trying to keep up with them.
1 in, lads. 1 in.
7 goals to zip in the last quarter.
Yes, unfortunately, you're right. We point that out. 7 goals to 0-5 in the last term. You are seriously going to have the finger pointed at you when you start falling away. They did it last week as well. Port Adelaide really ran away from them, and now it's happened again.
And Jetta on the open side again. Short pass. McGlynn should run onto it to his own advantage. Buffeted out of it. Pike. Little toe poke. Still trying to pick it up. Jack couldn't quite. Hammered high. Swans have the numbers around it. Parker. Splendid grab.
12 of the last 13 goals Sydney have kicked.
Look at Rowan's just pushed into space, and no one anywhere near him.
The referee's got to stop this fight.
Well, Adelaide players now turning around, looking at each other. He is filthy. It's Luke Brown who was looking around just despondent with his teammates, saying, what's going on? No one was moving, no one was covering. Rowan sitting all on his own.
And half this full stadium is now empty. From the paint, strikes it well, misses.
And it's a shame, really, because for 3 quarters we had what looked to be a pretty good contest. Yeah. Even though Sydney broke clear and had that 3-goal break for most of the day, there was always the threat of Adelaide coming back into it. But now it just looks like a B-grade side against an A-grade side, doesn't it?
Absolutely. But do you have, when it was that close and they had that many opportunities, it only took 1 goal just to split it right open, didn't it, Jason, from there?
They're hanging by a thread, weren't they?
Yanch towards Podsiadley.
1 on 3 deep, Dangerfield.
Adelaide fans about to be put out of their agony here. Inside a minute to full time to Dangerfield over his head. Rampy to the boundary. 134-69, and Brent Sanderson and his Adelaide Crows will start 2014 0-3. Eddie Betts again can't make something happen.
Just the 10 possessions for Eddie Betts, 1 goal in a very, very quiet day for him. Nick Smith's done an outstanding job.
Nearly the best small defender in the comp. Wouldn't he be one of the best, isn't he, in the top 3 or 4?
Here's Eddie for a consolation prize.
He'd certainly be one of the most underrated, wouldn't he? Doesn't get the accolades, but starting to get recognised at least.
I reckon he's one of those players that coaches must love having, because you give him a job and he does it every week. You just don't have to worry about him.
He stood up a couple of years ago in the granny on Cyril, didn't he? Not that I always want to bring Cyril up, Jace, when you're next to me, but I know you love it.
Jacobs pops it inside 50. Podsy Adley, who has tried his heart out, will have the kick after the siren. Sydney Swans haven't just won this, they've won it with a cruel vintage ruthlessness in the end. They demolished the Adelaide Crows in the final quarter to get their own season back on track. It's incidental now. Podsy Adley's shot, and that's the tale of the day. Inaccuracy cost them, fitness cost them, but the Sydney Swans had their mojo back, and the class act that we knew they were prior to this season is now 1 win, 2 losses, and a couple of SCG games to come in the next couple of weeks. Cameron Mooney downstairs.
Thanks, Dwayne. Down here with Buddy Franklin and Buddy. Finally get your first win for the new club, mate. How does it feel?
Yeah, it's a great feeling. We knew it was going to be a tough game coming over here against Adelaide. Both teams have lost the last 2, so to come over here and win like that's very satisfying.
Individually, it takes a little bit of time to get used to the new teammates, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I'm slowly getting there though, and today was a step forward for the team and for myself, and we just look forward to playing North Melbourne next week, celebrate today and then move on.
Look like the team really kicked into gear. It's taken obviously a few weeks to get going, but as a whole, just looked like you really kicked in today.
Yeah, definitely. I think we gelled perfectly today. The backs, midfielders and forwards all worked together as a team and got the win.
All right, now on to a bit of the fun stuff, mate. Did you guys get told to have a little clipper during the week?
Me and Mel and sure he came to training the other day with clip it up a bit short, so I thought I might as well follow the boys and got rid of the beard, and it worked today and we got the win.
Do you know the song yet?
Oh mate, I've been practicing during the week, so hopefully I get it right.
Good on you, mate. Good stuff.
Cheers, mate.
Lance Franklin with Cameron Mooney, and he's delighted. All of a sudden, it's all worthwhile. This is their one and only meeting in 2014, these two teams, unless of course they meet in the finals. And the Sydney Swans will be pretty happy with their afternoon at the office.
He doesn't know the song now, he'll know it by the end of the year. Sydney aren't done with yet, they got plenty up their sleeve. Might be a bit underdone early on the first couple of weeks, but plenty of good players to come back into their side. Longmire talked about getting some games into some of the younger players with a bit of leg speed. That's only going to help them later on in the year as well.
Back down to Cameron Mooney.
Thanks, Dwayne. Kieran, thought you guys answered a lot of critics today. You want to go into the round 4, 0 and 3. You really came out and just played a sensational game of footy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a statement game for us. I mean, there was a lot on the line. We've put a lot of pressure on us. We just want to get our processes right, and we've just been really inconsistent the past couple of weeks. I think the pleasing thing today was, consistently we were able to get it done, and the last quarter, which was good for a change, we were able to run it out. Clearances were a huge thing for you today. I thought your scores from as well, but you've been really down on them over the last couple of weeks. Yeah, we just simplified it. Sometimes you can overcomplicate things when all you really need is your big blokes going in and winning the ball. I thought Joey Kennedy was outstanding. Big Mike Pike's probably dominated the ruck too, so it was great to see. What about the big man down forward? 4 goals, 11 goal involvements. He came to play the big boy today, didn't he? Mate, it was great for him. It was great to see. I mean, he's cupped a bit of an unfair rap, I reckon. Good to see him running around and kicking a few and setting a few up too. I thought his defensive pressure was really good, and he's starting to click, which is good. Okay, I reckon now you guys are just starting to click as a group now and look pretty scary in that last quarter. Well done, mate. Thanks, Moose.
Kieran Jack, the co-captain. Perfect Saturday afternoon conditions, and the Sydney Swans have taken full toll away from home. That's the Swans we've grown to know and love. 21-8, 134 to 9-17, 71. Welcome back to the Adelaide Oval. Both teams winless coming into this. Both teams knew it was do or die. Get their season back on track in round 3 with their first victory of the season. Adelaide led early. Sydney Swans hit back late in the opening term, led by 24 at quarter time. James Podsiadly played his best game for the Adelaide Crows, fought hard. 19 points was the margin at half-time. The Adelaide Crows cut it back to 2 points, and then the Sydney Swans, some old cool heads. Lance Franklin finished with 4 goals for the afternoon. Luke Parker also 4 goals for the afternoon. 25 points was the margin at three-quarter time. McVeigh, a sensational grab. Gary Rowan, the sub, came on, gave them spark, gave them the sealer. And then a few junk time percentage boosters. Dan Hanbury back among the possessions this afternoon. And look at that scoreline. 21-8, 134 to a very inaccurate Adelaide on their home ground, believe it or not, where they're still yet to win. 9-17. 71, Franklin 4, Parker 4, but it was a demolition job in the end. But it was a delight to watch, especially for Sydney fans watching this at home.
Yeah, very impressive, the Sydney Swans. They got off to a great start in the first quarter, and then Adelaide fought back, but it always looked like they had control of things. They just weren't able to put Adelaide away until really they got the big run on at the end. And in the end, it was an impressive smashing, wasn't it?
Absolutely. They were really good in the stoppages, good in tight. Luke Parker kicked a couple of really good goals. They kicked some big goals from outside 50, and the highlight of the day was to see Buddy Franklin come back into a bit of form. He'd been heavily scrutinised leading into today's game, but you could just see right from the start it was going to be Buddy's day. Yeah,
plenty of space, good conditions, got some decent ball coming down to one-on-one contests. And he certainly turned it on. He did a couple of really good things. It wasn't just about the 4 goals that he kicked either. And you'll see a little passage of play here with a nice little sell that one through and kick the goal. But his score involvements, the number of times he pushed up the field and then drove it long to a player running back with the flight of it who virtually marked it in the goal square and kicked goals. Here's an example. He did one to McVeigh, he did one to Laidler a little bit later on. He was involved all over the ground. So 20 possessions, 4 goals to a number of score assists. Very impressive day for Buddy. This is what they recruited him for. When you're on a bloke like Daniel Talia, push him up the ground and tire him out too, and you get him. Then all of a sudden you get an easy one because they can't go with him. Talk about being tired out. Well, you've got a very interesting stat from about halfway through the third quarter until the final siren. Not some good signs for the Adelaide Crows. No, they got within 2 points, and from that on it was 12 goals 5 to 1 goal 10.
And a disappointing home crowd, 47,000 only in a stadium that seats 50,000 plus 3,000 standing room. Absolutely. For the Adelaide Crows' first home game of the year. Yeah, well, not making excuses, but local footy did start today, I guess, and that on a Saturday afternoon, that does take its toll. A 7-0 last quarter for the Sydney Swans. They demolished the Adelaide Crows in the end, and for the first time, Lance Franklin will sing the song with his Sydney Swans teammates. He practiced it during the week. Here it is now.
This has been a Fox Footy production for Fox Sports.